LSU, South Carolina this Saturday in Death Valley. And to help preview that, we are joined by the best in the business, the sports director from WAFB 9, Jacques Doucet, joins us. JD, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Noah. Good morning. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, not too shabby. Standing outside the Spectrum at South Downs Health Club, trying to get a little workout in this morning, and looking forward to another big weekend of college football after a bye week for both LSU and Southern, and the Saints finally breaking into the win column on Sunday. We got another big weekend ahead coming up.
What's the workout routine, JD? I'm always interested. You're there a lot. You look great. I'm just wondering what you're doing. Is it a big run day?
I don't
or
know how great I look. I on Monday, I typically try to do chest, Jordy.
Jordy?
Noah and Lloyd, excuse me. I need more caffeine this morning. I do chest on Monday. I do back and buys another day. I do shoulders another day. I've really let the legs go in recent years. It's just I started having back problems because I was squatting incorrectly. So I don't think I'm ever going to look like the guy who is huge. Got this huge upper body and these little skinny legs, but I've let the legs go a little bit. So I tell you what, when you get older, you think walking is like wimpy and stuff, but really, I do a lot of walking now. So, I think you can walk at 4 miles an hour, and I think I only, quote unquote, jog at 6. So there's not a huge difference. So walking is good for you too. And it's simple, Lloyd. Just walk outside. Just go in circles.
It's like the LSU offense, but one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, something like that. I don't see any three-man fronts or anything. I do see some dogs and stuff, but it's I'm still waiting for that first cool breeze of fall to start blowing through. I think we got a little something coming in this week that'll make the nights and the mornings feel a little bit better. So here we are getting deeper into October, still waiting for the pumpkin spice latte and the sweaters, the sweatshirts and everything. Hadn't happened yet.
Well, JD, before we get into this weekend, I want to ask you about this past weekend. Obviously, it was the bye week for LSU, but watching some of the other games, if you were able to catch any of them, Alabama, Vanderbilt, Georgia, Kentucky, just any of those other games that were played, did you feel better or worse about where LSU currently stands after this past weekend?
Well, I think it just reiterates that college football has more parity than ever before. Discussion, I did a little chat with Alyssa Lane from SEC Network yesterday, and she kind of reiterated that point. Once you start comparing scores and thinking you got it all figured out, you don't. Texas played a competitive game at Ohio State to start the year, lost it and kind of played a soft schedule. But then Florida, I think, had been written off by a lot of people. Texas goes to Florida and gets beat pretty soundly. Florida has been pretty good in terms of the last couple of years upsetting some highly ranked teams at home, or some teams that they were underdog to. Did it at the end of last year to LSU and Ole Miss. Now they got Texas. I thought that Vanderbilt certainly had a chance, to win the game, but Diego Pavia had some very, costly turnovers inside the Alabama 20-yard line. They were right there to score a lot more points than what they did. Let's see, who else did we watch? We watched Miami was pretty dominant in their win over Florida State. Florida State obviously opening the year with a pretty easy win over Alabama at home, and then getting ambushed by Virginia last week and now losing to Miami. So I guess it just reiterates that scores are all over the board and that there's a lot of parity and there's no dynamite powerhouse teams, and then there's a lot less teams that are bad in terms of like the old Vanderbilts and whatnot. I think you look at Arkansas, they're struggling pretty badly. Kentucky's got a struggling outfit, but I don't know how much it changed my perspective on everything in terms of LSU. I think LSU hopefully took a good hard look at themselves, scouted some things out. I don't know how much better they can be on the offensive line in terms of running the football and how much Garrett Nussmeier can throw the ball down the field a little bit better and utilize these weapons. What does Chris Hilton have? 4 catches, 30 yards all year long so far. Darian Brown has been utilized to an extent, but not the way that I think they thought they would. Brandez Green with an injury. That's a long answer for what I saw in college football this past weekend, but it was good to watch some games and not run around on a Saturday. So made the trip to Orange Beach and spent a couple of days there, and so it was nice.
How does it still feel refreshing to you to be able to do that? Because sometimes I guess that you could say we're in the industry, you work a lot harder than we do, but being able to sit back and not really have an LSU football game and kind of take in the perspective of everyone else in college football and go, maybe LSU isn't as bad as everybody thinks in terms when you're in this microscope that we put LSU under.
Yeah, I think that we're learning that more and more. I know we always reference 2011 when LSU and Alabama played each other twice, and you take a look at the third stringers on those teams and see guys like Ron Brooks and some others that played multiple years in the NFL, and these days that's just not happening. Guys are going to transfer to go play somewhere else. They're going to go get paid somewhere else. Your NIL and transfer portal has changed all of that in terms of, looking back at 2019, how would LSU ever be able to afford Joe Burrow at quarterback, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, your wide receivers? Terrence Marshall was a high draft pick as well. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, your defensive guys. Patrick Queen had a stadium named after him last week that I went and attended. Derek Stingley as a freshman doing what he did. I mean, I don't know if you ever be able to piece those kind of teams together again. Maybe it'll swing back, but I think once again you see that there is no Miami 2001, none of these powerhouse teams. I think everyone's got their warts and flaws. And LSU's 4-1. Obviously, fans are very disappointed by the way they played at Ole Miss. It was a very frustrating game to watch. It was there for the taking. The offense did not do their part, and so I think some fans feel like for what the coaching staff is being paid, you've been compensated, and what the roster is being compensated, they expect a better product from what they saw at Ole Miss. And certainly Braylon Moore in the interviews last night said, as long as we can't run the football, opposing teams are going to flood the secondary with 8 defenders. They're going to make things crowded back there. They're going to make it very difficult for Garrett to throw the football and get it to our playmakers. And so we've got to be able to, get something on the ground. I mean, if you would have told me before the year that Caleb Jackson would have, I think he's got 7 carries on the year. If you tell me Caleb Jackson's got 7 carries through the first 5 games, I'm not sure I would have believed that. Or he did 7 against like Southeastern on his own. In just that one game. So, Caden Durham will be back. What does that mean for the rushing attack? Can they get it going? Can they create something new? And I get it, getting away from the run. I mean, LSU definitely passes the ball better than they run it. But you hear football guys say, well, they only turned around and handed the ball to running back twice in the whole first half at Ole Miss. So, yes, there's something to be said about keeping teams honest. And Garrett's got to improve his decision making. He's made some passes that he made, back in 2021 when he was kind of a gunslinging freshman to run around and beat Johnny Manziel, Brett Favre. He needs to make better decisions. That was a very costly interception at Ole Miss when LSU had a chance to go up 14-3 or 10-3, kind of dictate the tempo of game to throw that ball into double, triple coverage was a bad move. So LSU at home this weekend. This is a must-win. Do not lose to South Carolina at home with a trip to Vanderbilt, home game against Texas A&M, trip to Alabama on the horizon. This is a game you're favored to win by 9, 10 points, and you absolutely must do so.
We talked a lot before the year about the, I guess you could say, the vibes of the LSU football team were very high. Everybody seemed to be coming together. And we put some stock into that because I feel like it was led by Nussmeier and everybody was kumbaya and coming together, and felt like the chemistry was immaculate coming from transfer portal and then putting it all together. After interviewing the players yesterday, does it still feel like they're very much intact, or is the foundation starting to leak a little bit?
No, I was pretty impressed with the guys they brought to the interviews yesterday. I mean, off the top of my head, Braylon Moore and A.J. Halsey are 2 veteran players, very mature, have seen a lot of football, and I was very impressed with their answers and their leadership. I think these days more than ever, it's hard to avoid players from starting to start breathing in and eating the toxic stuff with these social media platforms and places where negativity really brews, to stay away from that stuff, to stay away from the people in their ear telling them what the coaches should and shouldn't be doing, who should play, who shouldn't. I think, I was thinking about it. Garrett Nussmeier is a lot like Drew Brees in the fact that now we have a college football free agency season, and I remember a lot of these guys that LSU signed in the offseason, both offensive and defensive players, saying a big reason they came to LSU was that Garrett Nussmeier was the quarterback, and they felt like LSU was pretty set at the most important position on the field. We used to hear that all the time during the Drew Brees era. Free agents would sign with the Saints because they said, okay, the quarterback's in place and we can go. And so the fact that he's only thrown 7 touchdowns through the first 5 games, his numbers are way down. It seemed like a cinch he was going to pass Tommy Hodson to become the program's all-time leading passer, over 9,000 yards. But I think that's in doubt at the moment, at least. And so that has been what we did not see. I think that did not foresee. I think that after he threw for 4,000 yards, he wouldn't get worse, he would get better. And whether it's a injury, whatever the case may be, the productivity in the passing game has not been what I think anybody would expect, especially considering who they added to the room in terms of catching the football and whatnot. And I don't think the pass protection has been horrific. They only give up 1 sack against Ole Miss or something like that. It wasn't a ton, but South Carolina, I think, sacked Kentucky 6 times last time they played a game, and so LSU's definitely got to protect Garrett and see what they can do here, and just see if he can throw the ball down the field. You've heard different things. Is he hurt? Is he not? It's a mental thing. It's a physical thing. Only Garrett Nussmeier can really answer that question, and we'll see if we haven't talked to him since the Ole Miss game, after the game in Oxford. So we'll see if they bring him on Saturday night after the game and how he plays and what does he have to say.
And that's kind of what I wanted to ask you about, is that the entire situation throughout the season and kind of how it's played out. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but it just feels almost like a television show, like a soap opera, where it's just this, no one really knows what is exactly going on. There's not really anything being said transparently. It all feels very vague and confusing. What are your thoughts on the situation, and maybe and if you can think of any situation similar to this, LSU or not, where there was just it was so vague and so much confusion around a situation like this?
Yeah, I'm not trying to be melodramatic and sensational. It's strange.
Right.
It's strange that, first of all, the information of the injury was volunteered by the head coach after the Florida game without anybody really asking. I mean, I think it was my question. I asked about Garrett Nussmeier's mechanics and if he was doing some things wrong. I heard Rohan talking about, Garrett needing to anchor his base in the pocket, throwing off his back foot and doing some of those things. And then that's when Kelly said, well, what you guys need to know, he's been dealing with a torso injury and blah, blah, blah. And so we had, known about whatever was going on with the knee at the beginning of August, but that just kind of went by the wayside. The first time we were out to practice after that reported knee injury, Garrett's running around left and right, dropping back in the pocket. Doesn't look much different to me. So that the knee thing was nothing, and now you've got this torso thing. Garrett, after the game, says, after the Ole Miss game, says, I'm not going to answer any questions about my health and whatnot. Kelly then says, after the game, the Ole Miss game, that Garrett's healthy. He reiterates he's healthy, but then LSU shuts him down and doesn't throw during the entire bye week. So, it's confusing. It's not clear. You hear different rumors. People ask, does he have a sports hernia? Does he have an ab thing? Does he have nothing at all? I can't really answer. I mean, I see what I see on the field, I see Garrett Nussmeier badly underthrow Barry and Brown against Louisiana Tech, a ball that gets batted into the air and intercepted. I see Garrett Nussmeier badly underthrow Chris Hilton at Ole Miss in the second half, a throw he usually makes or overthrows. So all I can go by is what I see, and Garrett is still adequate. I mean, it's not like they're throwing for 50 yards, but he's not utilizing the weapons like we certainly thought he would, and the running game hasn't helped. It's been a collection of problems. Some people talk about the play calling. Joe Sloan could maybe say, what do you want me to call? I got an offensive line that can't block. I got 5 guys that can't block 3. We can't run the ball. So it's there's a lot going on there that hopefully they can fix, because the defense obviously is a championship caliber defense. You feel good about taking them on the road to Tuscaloosa, into Vanderbilt, into other places, Oklahoma, where they always say defense travels, and sometimes your offense takes a little bit to settle in with opposing crowds and this and that. I mean, they've got dudes. I mean, that secondary's got some big guys back there that hit and are veteran guys, and it's a defense that is going to do very well. It only gave up 24 points on the road to Lane Kiffin, so got to score some points.
And so looking forward to this weekend, outside of health, obviously, which is of the utmost importance and huge coming out of a bye week, what do you want to see specifically against South Carolina? Because in my opinion, it almost feels like there's like a win, just a win wouldn't be enough at this point for the fan base specifically, that when you look at where LSU currently is, if they win the same way they won against Tech or against Florida, that wouldn't really please the fan base in the same way, that there would probably still be some upset people. What would you like to see on Saturday against the Gamecocks?
They don't go 3 and out to start the game offensively.
Those boos will probably echo if that happens.
Jacques, that place will turn into the actual Coliseum.
Yeah, I mean, just think about it, guys. Okay, LSU's at home, bye week. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here come your Fighting Tigers of LSU. Team runs on the field, everyone fired up, everyone looking up. LSU comes out, hand off to Caden Durham, 1 yard. Nussmeier, that ball deflected at the line, incomplete, 3rd and 9. Nussmeier, 4-yard pass. Here comes the punting team. That is not what they need to do on Saturday. I mean, they need to get the fans into the game. They need to get them excited. They need to move the football down the field. They need to, I think they need to run the ball. It'd be nice to run the ball for 120 yards and throw it for 250 or more, get around 400 yards of offense, score 30 points. Defense, I don't think many people are worried too much about the defense. I think there is still a kind of a question of how well can we defend dual threat quarterback, and Lenore Sellers, obviously a much different LSU defense in Columbia, but he was having his way with LSU a year ago before he had to leave the game. And I think the team that wins the game is the team that wins the game. But LSU was very fortunate to win that game in Columbia a year ago. If you remember, Garrett Nussmeier throws the interception. Carolina's returning it for a pick 6 and an 11-point lead with 4 minutes left, and the game's probably over. Carolina decides to cheap shot Garrett Nussmeier, and then the play comes back, and LSU gets the game-winning score, and Carolina misses the field goal at the gun to tie the game. So I think defending a dual threat quarterback, Lenore Sellers, and holding him down. But obviously all the questions are going to be around the offense. And if you Garrett Nussmeier and company, how do you play loose and go out there and, kind of try to have some fun and not be too tense, knowing that, all eyes are on you to move the football and to do some things. But to answer your question, I think it's been well documented that pretty much every LSU series outside of maybe the Clemson game to start, they've gone 3 and out pretty much the entire season. They have not established any kind of flow or gotten fans in the game. I mean, the Southeastern game, they scored 56 points and looked good, but that opening series was terrible against Southeastern offensively. So, yeah, I think that's those are a few thoughts on that. Of course, it's a new era in Tiger Stadium, and I'm not insulting anybody or calling out fans or whatever. It's just the way it is now. I mean, I remember going to Tiger Stadium in the 80s and 90s, and people didn't leave games, and now they do. Even if the game's closed at halftime, a lot of people decide to go and watch the game at a tailgate or at their house or beat traffic or whatever the case may be. So we'll see if Tiger Stadium can come alive and stay alive for a long time.
And that'll be an interesting aspect of this, because you can always kind of hang your hat on LSU and the fan base being there, but it does feel like there's almost 1 foot out the door. And with that being said, do you think that – I was asked this question yesterday by – people that watch LSU, they're like, what do you think is up with us? And it led to a conversation that I wasn't expecting to have. Was like, do you think he's okay mentally? Like, are you starting to see any of that strain on him? I know you've only talked to him after the Ole Miss game, which is probably the lowest he's felt. But do you see any of that where there's really not that much joy in doing this, and what did I come back for?
Yeah, I mean, Brian Kelly last week, didn't he use the word mental week more than once? Like, this is a mental week for our team, mental week for Garrett.
You make it an adverb, it's a totally different statement.
Yeah, I've heard people say, does he have a case of kind of what Jarrett Lee went through at times and whatnot? I mean, Jarrett Lee threw a lot of interceptions. Nelson's thrown some. It is depressing. Hopefully it's the case, Drew Brees used to use the term called break the seal. Sometimes it'd take them a while to get the first down. And when they would, things would start rolling. And maybe for Garrett, it's a case of hitting that first big pass down the field and everything starts flowing after that. But he is and you got to think about the pressure too. I mean,
yes.
If he goes pro and he is a mid first round draft pick or a late first round draft pick and he's on an NFL roster, now to come back, when you do come back, what does that mean? That means NIL money. That means, I saw Garrett Nussmeier at least 2 or 3 times driving to the gym this morning on billboards in different places. You're the face of the team now. You are a pro, and it's one of those things too where it's like, if we're not playing as well as we'd like, or we're not scoring points, and I'm plastered everywhere, and I'm on, I'm in the takeout line of Raising Cane's with Arch Manning and the Mannings. People get sick of seeing that stuff if you're not doing as well as fans would like. So it just kind of creates an overall atmosphere that can be unpleasant at times. But it's like sometimes, you go to a baseball game and how sometimes they play those goofy skits on the scoreboard. And it's like, what's your favorite movie? And it's the LSU players or whatever. I think they got a better they got a better sense of when and when not to play those things. I think one time LSU's getting their butts kicked in a game before Jay Johnson, like 10-1 or something. They play one of those skits up there, and nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to laugh. I think it's the same thing with these commercials and these NIL deals. When the team's doing well, they smile and say, hey, that's great. But when you lose to Ole Miss and don't score enough points, I think that adds to the pressure of being the quarterback at LSU, which...
Get your ass on the field and quit doing commercials.
Exactly, right. I mean, it goes to the coaches, too. I mean, a little bit before your time, but, Jared DiNardo, his first 3 years, he was coming off 6 straight losing seasons, and they start winning, and he decides to open a restaurant called DiNardo's, and then... he's in these truck commercials where he's singing, I love my truck. He loves that truck. It's a Ford for me. He loves that truck. And he's riding around in his Ford truck, and he's all these commercials all the time. And then they go, they went 4-7 and 3-8, and he's out, and that's the end. So it is just getting to be it's just getting to be too much. It's just so much money invested in the coach, so much money invested in the coordinators, so much money invested in the roster. It is just so money, and I realize money drives the world and all that, but it's drifted and gotten so far away from my childhood innocence and Tommy Hodson throwing a pass to Eddie Fuller in the back of the end zone to make the earthquake. It is so much different than it was back then. And the days of, I hope we win 8-9 games and go to a nice bowl game. And bowl games suck. We're not going. Everything is just the intensity and just the overall feel of things is so different than it was in the past. And if that sounds old managed, then fine. But you just have so much money invested, and then they're going to be, if it rolls around in January and they're not where they want to be, and they're going to the Gator Bowl or something like that, and they say, and LSU has to tell people, all right, time to pony up for the next roster, time to pay the 2026 Tigers. How many people do that? We are not a rich state, right? I mean, we know that. We know that when the Charlotte Hornets came and became the New Orleans Hornets, we heard about how there's not a whole lot of money in the state. How can they support an NBA team? And they're still here, but it's we don't have many Fortune 500 companies in Louisiana, sure.
And JD, I'll close out with this question. LSU baseball fall ball gets kicked off this weekend, and they have one of the scrimmages on Sunday at 1:30. Do you think that crowd is bigger on Sunday after a win, LSU football win on Saturday, or a loss on Saturday in Alec Box?
Ooh, good question. Good question. Meaning like LSU loses, and I need something to take my mind off it.
I want to see a winner, damn it.
So I go watch the team that's won 2 national championships in 3 years, and I look at Jay Johnson and I say, there's a coach right there. There's a guy that I can get behind. I think that I'll go with an LSU loss. I think the weather should be nice. People are going to want to get outside. I don't know how many people are, even after the Saints won, are going to be inside watching the Saints and Patriots. So I think if LSU loses, you'll have a bigger crowd. Of course, we'll never know the answer to that. I think John Eads is actually at Alec Box right now. No, I'm kidding.
I wouldn't be surprised.
He's gonna be hitting all the scrimmages reports and video and all that. I mean, does an amazing job, and certainly it paid off last year. I mean, John covered all that stuff religiously and worked extremely hard, and that's the groundwork you lay way back in October for a team that finishes almost near the 4th of July. So it'll be, it's exciting stuff. They'll be playing in Biloxi again for an exhibition. 3 7-inning games on a Sunday. I think it's in November or something like that. They drew a huge crowd last year. I think they drew 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 fans to see LSU baseball. They're going to do that again. I think they're going to Hammond to play the game against the Southeastern Lions on another Sunday in an exhibition. The softball team's got a series of exhibitions, at fall exhibitions at home as well, including one against Southern. I'm trying to remember the last time LSU and Southern played in softball. It's been a long time. I can't remember. So there'll be some cool things coming up with the bat and ball here and then I guess LSU baseball does the Purple and Gold World Series, where they play a series of games. So yeah, only place in America perhaps where you can go out in the fall and there might be 400, 500 people watching LSU scrimmage each other in baseball.